Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this short lecture on ListView, GridView, and menus. We will have a short examples and some use cases of how to set up and use ListView, GridView, and menus. And so let's start. So let me switch to my, okay. So basically GridView and ListView are very core views that are used in Android. GridView is a view group that can be used to list two-dimensional or multi-column views. You can populate it with different views. The default is a text view. However, you can customize it accordingly, and we will see how. The list view is almost the same as GridView. The only difference is it is basically a one column grid view, and it displays things in a vertical fashion. If you want to look at how they will look like in the Android device, they will look as you can see here. This is the grid view and this is the list view, and as normal there is in the XML there is a class or an element called grid view to configure and define any grid view you want. The same thing for list view. Let me show you that in the Android Studio. So this is an Android Studio where I defined one lecture 7 layout activity.xml, and you will see that I defined here grid view, and you will see that I configure it with different kind of property. Maybe the main thing is number of columns. This is something you might need to decide. So it could be 5, it could be 3. It's up to you. Also, it could be, there's one option here called auto fit, where you leave it to Android to decide how many columns for you. So auto fit is a very nice one where if you don't know exactly how many columns you need, you can set it with auto fit. In addition to that, GridView has a bunch of spacing vertically, horizontally, and stretch mode that you can configure it. A list view in the bottom here, you see a list view. As you can see, a list view is one column and it has elements at the top of each other. Unlike of GridView, you will see that you can only configure it through the Java code. You can populate it through Java code, through a mediator class called adapter, and we'll look at that in shortly. Meanwhile, ListView, you can have it programmed or configured through the Java code. Also, it has an entries element where you can specify the resource. For example, here's some array you defined in the string.xml. So the list view has two ways to be configured or to be populated: Java code or the entries element. Meanwhile, this is one different grid view. Grid view is a multi-line, multi-column, and at the same time it can only be configured through or populated through the Java code. So here's some comparison between GridView and ListView. They are twin. The only difference is that GridView is two-dimensional, ListView one dimension, one column. Both of them scrollable. You can scroll through them, and they come with scrollable feature. The data source in GridView can only be set through the code, while the ListView can be the code or the XML itself. In terms of attributes, the GridView has many additional attributes that include number of columns, horizontal, vertical spacing, stretching, column width, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, the list view doesn't have that additional features. Only maybe the entries is the main feature or the main property that distinguish it from grid view. Now, both list view, grid view, and also, by the way, spinner, all of them, they have the same design in terms of how they work and how they get populated and viewed and displayed on the mobile device. Basically, Normally, you have a data source where you have some data in a list, in array, in any kind of maybe a cursor from a database. And this data source will be set inside the adapter. This is the class, the mediator. So the adapter is the class that control, that manage, that is connection between the data source and the view itself. Now the adapter decide a few things. One, it decide the data source. You can set the adapter with the data source that you want. Second, also you can set the adapter with the look and how does the every item in the list view or grid view look like. So you can set them up also through that. At the end, you will have the list view set and displayed in the device. Let's look at some example here. So here's an example. As you can see here, you have a data source, you have adapter, and in the adapter, he is mediating between data source and the grid view. Now, here's in this example, I'm assuming I have some cities, or let me switch to the Android and show you that in the Android, okay? So this is the XML. I have grid view and list view, and here let me uncomment the first one, which is set grid view from a resource. So basically what you have is I have the array adapter, as you can see here, and this array adapter is set from a resource, which is Abu Dhabi cities. As you can see, Abu Dhabi city can be found here. I can open it here, values, strings. So Abu Dhabi city, let me look it up. Here it is. So I have Al Ain, Swihan, Sila. I can add more, of course. I can add, for example, you name it, I don't know. Let's say city 3. And you can add more, of course. Item, for example, Al Yahar. Okay, and so on and so forth. So this is a resource saved in the XML, the string.xml. And let's get back to the code here. This is the exact one. Now I want to set up the grid view with these cities. Okay, so I grab the grid view ID. So the grid view ID, if I go back here, the ID is GV. It's some very quick name. And after that, okay, I made a mistake, I guess. Okay, and the grid view, you set the adapter, as you can see here, with the adapter that I just defined. Now, if you look at the adapter has 3 parameters, and let me make them clear to you here. The first parameter of the adapter here, this is one of the constructor, of course, is the context, which is the activity that we have. The second parameter is the look and feel. How does each element will look like? And you will have a bunch of things that are defined in Android for this purpose. So I choose select dialog item. If you just say that, you will find others like list item 1. You have many of them. So pick one. And the third parameter, the constructor of the adapter, is the resource. And here I'm picking a resource from the string.xml. Now you grab the grid view as normal with find view by ID. And after that, you set the adapter. And later on, in a second, we will look at this, which is what you want to do when you click on each element in the grid view. So what do you want to do? Here, this is the listener where you can decide that. Okay, I uncomment this. Let's run it and see how does it look like here when we see it in the AVD. Okay, so if you run it, let me. It's still running here. Let's see how does it look like. So I expect the grid view will be populated with elements, and they will start populated element row by row. And if you look here, the number of columns that we have is auto fit. So it will be decided by Android, not us. So Android will look at the content of the resource and he will align things accordingly. It's taking some time. Okay. So here, We're still waiting. Okay, here we go. As you can see, the cities have been populated, and he decided that he will put 4 cities in each row. That means we have 4 columns, as you can see here. Al Ain, Suwayhan, and so on and so forth. And notice that you can click on them. And when you click on them, you will expect doing what? To do some kind of thing, action. We don't do anything currently. We'll see how can we do things. If you look at the list view here, it got populated with some cities also. And the city that got populated from here, because I also added emirate arrays, which is different arrays. So I already set the list view through the XML, not through the program. Okay. And this what will happen. We have 3 cities. For here, we don't have any scrollable because they are still what we have enough space to display all of the cities without having to scroll them. However, if you let's say instead of auto fit and you say I wanted just 3 columns and you rerun again, you'll see that they will become 3 and uh, depending on the spacing part, whether they will have enough, whether they need scrolling or not. And this depends on, of course, Android and the size of the device. Let's see how does it look like. Now I decide number of columns 3, so I expect to have 3 columns in the grid view. Okay, now installing. Now, here we go. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Still, it has enough space to do that. We'll see how can, if you have enough cities, it will be scrollable, of course. Now, what do you want to do when you click here? So there's a action, there's a listener. Let me get back here. In the grid view, there's a method or a listener where you can set, which is set on item, click listener. And this listener has 4 parameters. I'm using the I'm using the notation here, as you can see here, tell them the notation, the abbreviated notation, as you can see here. So the first parameter is the parent, the second is the view itself, the position and the ID. And let's add a simple action here, okay? So I know, for example, the view here, so I can cast it to text view because everything by default text view. So, and let me toast just to tell that you have been clicked, which let's say city was clicked. And of course, the second parameter is the message that I want. So I will say tv.getText to string was tapped. Okay. And here you'll put toast and you'll see dot split shortly and show. Okay, let me just to grab it a little bit to the second line so that we can see it all the time. Now, currently here, if you tab, nothing will happen here. But let's rerun again and see what will happen. So here we are doing what? We are doing the just toasting, displaying which item was clicked among the cities. It's still running. Let's see when it's come up. We'll see what will happen. Okay, so if you click Al Ain, for example, you will see Al Ain was tapped here. If you click Al Sila, you will see the same thing here. City 3, same thing here, and so on. So you can add, you can do whatever programming you would like to have in this kind of thing. So this is one aspect. How can you set up the grid view? By the way, this is applicable also to the list view. Now, the second example I would like to conduct is if you have, for example, a list and you would like to populate this list. Can be dynamic, it's not fixed, because normally anything come from the XML is fixed, and normally it's read only. You cannot change, it's not that much dynamic. Now if you have a list, as you can see here, with a bunch of names, and you want to set up the roughly you can set up uh, the adapter of the grid view the same way as you set up from a resource. So here's the list, and the adapter has 3 parameters, the same as normal: the context and the view that you want to display each item, which is something comes from Android R layouts built in, and the list, which has currently now, it's a list of strings, has 5 names. Okay, maybe if you want, you can, just for the sake of having list, add some name plus I, just to add many to the list. And now if you look at them now, you will have the same exact configuration. Now I commented the first one, and I comment the second one, where I can get things from names. If I run, you will see that you can have this list populated inside the grid view, and it's very identical, but there is a difference, of course. The difference is that this list can be changing. If you change the list, you can reflect that inside the grid view. Let's look how does it look like. Here we go. As you can see, it's now scrolling, as you can see here, scrolling in the grid view, and there are many things. Of course, if you click on one, nothing will happen, because I did not do anything with the listener, because I commented the previous one. No, so one thing you can do here is that you can edit the list, and at the same time, once you edit the list, you can do whatever you want in terms of updating the view again. So for simplicity, or for make things simpler, let me remove this, and let's have a logic here by saying, if you try to add, let's say, if you click Salim, for example, I will add Salima, for example. Okay, and if you click, for example, Salima, for example, I will remove Salima. Okay, let's put this logic here. So if you click Salim, add Salima. Okay, so this can happen easily by saying, okay, by saying you define string text equal, you just get the text view, and you cast to text view, and you say text view, and I'm sorry, not text view, it should be view, and here you get the name, get text, and to string, and you check if name dot equal ignore case, for example, Salim. Okay, what you can do, you can add, you can list dot add Salima. Okay, now else I can say, if the name was equal ignore case Salima, I'm going to remove it. So list dot remove, and I say Salima. Okay, if Salima is there, you click on it, it will be removed. Now, in order here, notice that I am editing the list itself, the source itself, as you can see here. Now, in order to apply that on the grid view, you need to say adapter dot notify data change, dataset change. So this one will reflect on the grid view. It's interesting how this will work, but as I mentioned, I used a very template way to set up things. The last part is setting the on item click listener, and you can add as many things as you want, anything you want inside inside the grid view. Of course, again, this is applicable to list view. Now let's look here, how does it look like? Now, Salim, Fatma, if you hit Salim, nothing will happen. Kino. Salima, you will see Salim. If you click Salim, Salima, when you add it. If you click again, you will get Salima again. You see? Now, if you click Salima here, it will be gone. You see that? If you keep adding, here's Salima. The other, I did not mention anything or do anything there. So this is an example. How can you do that? Okay. Now, let's get back here. Okay. So these are examples very similar to what I mentioned here. The next part of defining or configuring the grid view or list view is the customized grid view. So the customized grid view is a way how can we display objects, more complicated data. So if we have doctors, for example, and each doctor has, let's say, image, each doctor has ID, name, specialty, gender, and so on and so forth. And we would like to have them inside the grid view. So using that, you'll see that the default layout of each element of the grid view is not enough. So how can we do our own customized grid view such that we display whatever we want, whatever layout we want inside the grid view? So to do that, the first thing we should know is that we should design each element of the grid view or list view. How does it look like? Of course, based on what? Based on the data that we have. Okay. So for example, if you have doctors, a doctor as a class in Java has name, ID, specialty, and gender. And this information, I want to display them in this fashion. A picture that represents the gender, either male or female, which is image view. And after that, the doctor ID. And after that, you will have the doctor name. And after that, the specialization. Of course, you can decide that. Now, you need to design this item by yourself. And the way you design it, I will show you. You need to go to the layout and you define a layout. For example, I'm defining doctor item 1 and it represents that. And as you can see, I am using linear layout, image view as normal. So this is the layout that will be reflected inside the grid view or list view. Okay. So you can spend some time on this. I have this. I will make this available to you at the end. Now, the second part is the adapter. The default adapter normally is not enough to display this layout, this customized layout. So what you need to do is to extend the adapter, the default adapter, by using inheritance and come up with your own doctor adapter. And we'll look at that, how exactly we can have our customized adapter. So here we want our customized doctor adapter that extend from base adapter. As a matter of fact, you have two paths. Either you extend from base adapter or you extend an array adapter, one of them. Here in this example, I'm using base adapter as a parent to my customized adapter. And if we look here, if we go a little bit back here and we look at any adapter, if you look at this adapter, normally you have three parameters: the context, the source of data, and in the middle, the layout of each item. Okay. So what I did here, basically, I choose to have in the constructor just two parameters. The first parameter is the context, and the second parameter is the source of data, which is the list of doctors. And I set them up here. Now, there are some methods that need to be overridden inside the adapter, and they are very simple methods that reflects, for example, how many doctors do we have, get count. So the doctors and the list of item, I call it item, so you retain the size. If you want a doctor at a certain position, so you just say item get position, you will return back object here or doctor. Also, there is a get item ID for a position where you retain the position itself. So these four, 1, 2, 3, in addition to constructor, methods are very simple to implement and they are straightforward. The only method that you need to override that has very some complication is getView. The getView method has three parameters: the position, the view, and the parent view. And this needs to be implemented or overridden so that it reflects this layout. Okay, so this method is the meat of the whole adapter. And basically what you need to do is to connect the layout with the doctor object. So you know you have a doctor object with name, ID, specialty. You want to reflect this value of doctor inside the layout, which is the XML. And remember, my layout is already defined as you've seen previously in the XML. I showed you that. So I assume that doctor item is here. Each item has the ID. Each view has ID. And you can add as many as you want, of course, based on your needs. Now, if you want to look at the doctor adapter in the code, let's look at it. Look it up here. So doctor adapter here, as you can see, it's extending adapter. It has context and items, normal. As you can see, the biggest one is getView, and getView, as you can see, where you are first inflatten the, of course, you are using the context to inflatten the doctor item one. You see here. So you are grabbing the XML, which is this one. Okay, you are grabbing the XML and we would like to populate each element of doctor, each property of doctor inside this layout. So first, get a doctor. Of course, I have all the items up there, so I can get the doctor at position. So I get an object doctor. Now I can populate, or let's say the UI with the doctor information. So I grab, for example, the name of the doctor from the XML. Notice that when you grab something find view by ID, now you are not using find view by ID, you are using the view itself, which represent this dude, the whole thing here. So this all item here, so the whole item here, I am looking for doctor name, which is doctor name TV, as you can see this one. So you grab it. I'm sorry, I should come here. And after that, you set this text view with the doctor get name, you get the doctor name. The same thing for IV here. IV here, it was meant to display a female image or male image based on the gender of the doctor. Okay, so here, as you can see, if by default you set the image to a doctor male. I have this image by default in drawable here. I have here doctor name female and male. I have it already. So as you can see here, by default is male. Then I check the gender of the doctor. If it's F, I change it to the female. And so same for the rest. You set everything, and at the end you just return view. Now let's use it, see how does it look like. So let me a little bit hide this. Okay, and hide this. Okay, let's now in the grid view, I will populate it with doctors. And if you look, how do we use that? Now I have a list of doctors that comes from some source. This list of doctors could be from database, from find, from asset, you name it, from the clouds. And you define using your own adapter now. You will pass this, the context and the doctors where you want to be populating the grid view, and the rest is the same as you can see. Now, if you run again, you will see that instead of names here, the grid view becomes a list populated with different doctor items, which represent the doctor informations that include text, images, and stuff like that. Let's wait a little bit to see how does it look like. It's taking a little bit. Here we go. As you see, here we go. The doctors, 3. Of course, it's scrollable, as you can see here. Of course, you can do better than this. If the name is very large or very long, you can a little bit cut it or do something. You can include miss, or of course, there's doctor. As you can see here, you can have, as you can see here, the grid view now. Okay. Now, in the same token, you can do that with the list view, by the way. Now, in the list view, I think let me leave the list view also together like this. Here's the custom list view. If you look, I did the same thing, but I grabbed the list view. I populated also with doctors. Let me run. Now you will find that the grid view with doctor and the list view also will be populated with doctors too. And you'll see the difference. The grid view is multi-column view. Meanwhile, the list view is one column view. Let's see how does it look like. Here we go. You see how does it look like? Now, of course, you can click here, the same token, the same. You can, for example, you can implement or override a handler for clicking the same way, and you can do whatever you want. But so this is for the base adapter. Of course, again, this should be very straightforward. How to customize GridView. First step is to design the UI for the element. Second, to extend the adapter, base adapter or array adapter, whatever. And the main meat or the main things of this view of this class is to override the getView method where you populate things inside. Now I'll stop here for of course I have in a slide some additional examples here. I will make this available to you too. The second part here, here's longer example, is about the menus. So menus are some standard features inside Android. And if from time to time, if I switch back to the device, you'll see the menu normally will be happening here at the top in the bar, in the application bar. As you can see, currently I have application bar with only what the name of my application. Now, if it happens that you don't have this, normally you might and you would like to show it. Normally you say get support action bar and dot show. And the same thing, if you want to hide it, you can hide it the same way. So you can call this in the onCreate method, and you can show or hide this menu from your application. Now, if you have it and you would like to have menus, normally menus are displayed on the top corner in the right-hand side, as you can see here. And normally menus can be inflated on the application bar itself or inside a hidden menu with 3 dots, as you can see here. This 3 dot called overflow menu. Meanwhile, here the application bar, you can have an item here to display the items of your menu. And of course, in the left-hand side, normally this is your application name. Now, how can we define menus? The first thing you need to understand is to define menus, you have to create XML, special kind of XML for menus. And the main item or the root item is called menu. And normally, let me show you normally you have to create a folder for that called menu. So if in the resources you don't have the menu folder, just right click and say I want new directory and create the directory that you want. Of course, I did already the menu, so I'm not going to create it again. Now here in the menu, let me show you my main menu here. And if you open it as any XML, you will define the different items of the menu, different items. So each item represents element of the menu. Now, some of the items that are populating here on the application bar, you will see them configured that way. And the way they configured, as you can see here, by saying or specifying property called what? Show as action. So show as action is a property that allows you to show the item on the action bar itself. If you don't have show as action, you will see, for example, title contacts inside the overflow menu. So again, each element of the menu can be on the bar, application bar here, and the way you show them is by specifying show as action. And of course, if room. Why? Because sometimes you don't have enough room to show, so it could be hidden because this is tiny space. Other items in the flow, in the overflow, can be configured this way. As you can see, you can add, of course, each item has an ID so that we can handle what will happen if we click on that. It has an icon, optionally an icon, and optionally also a title. Okay, so here you'll see item number 1 here is the new. So this is the new with icon I, as you can see here. I replace it with the icon, and it will show up here on the application bar. Another item contacts, and this contact will be under the overflow menu. The third item is information. Notice that I am creating a sub menu for this item info. So I have another menu inside the item, and this represents basically a sub menu inside it. And this tells you how can we create a sub menu. And in the sub menu, I have, I don't know if, yeah, it has, it's like, it has, let's say website on Twitter, our website in Facebook, and you can add as many as you want. Okay, so this is the first stage of doing what? Menus, is defining the XML, and the XML must be in the menu in the resource folder. Of course, I mentioned here the main attribute of the menu: ID, icon, title, show action as. However, if you look at the Android documentation for menu, you'll see that very large, very complicated, and a lot of configuration that you can use to do things with menu. And here's some explanation. I did already explain some of the yeah, this is show action, show as action. It could be if room with text, never, always, collapse, action, view, and this you can use them to define show as action. If room allows, so you will put it in the application bar if there is a room. Okay, with text here, also include title text in the action. Never means never show it in the bar. Always means always show it in the bar, and so on and so forth. Here's also collapsing action of view. It's very complicated. If do whatever you think it's suitable for your application, of course. Now, in order to show the menus, okay, you have to do two in the coding. You have to do two things. First, you have to override the method called onCreateOptionMenu. This will cause the menu to show up. So if I copy this, okay, notice that here I'm using menu 1, which is not the case in our if I go to, for example, here, and let me just copy the code. I am getting some special character. Let me remove it. Okay, and let me fix it. Okay, so override public. So here's menu. I will import menu. Okay, and here I don't have menu 1. What I have is main menu. So if I just main menu, and you inflate the XML from main menu, and it becomes available. Now if I run, you will see that in this appointment, you will see that there's a menu here showing up at the top. Currently it's running, so it will not show up, but it will show up shortly. Okay, so here's the about, and here's the menu that will show up contact info and info. If I click on it, you will have info Twitter and Facebook, as you can see. Now currently there's no action, so if you want to include action, okay, you need to override or provide on option selected menu item. Just before we go there, when you override on create option menu, notice that you are passing menu object here, and the menu object is it's an object that has to be as a parameter to this. Also, you must return true because it return boolean. Okay, and you need to use the inflator. Inflator is a class or a method that use the default inflator to grab the XML and create the object and the layout in the device. Now, let's look at here. Maybe let's grab the handler here for menu item here. Of course, I have some typos here. Okay, it's a little bit slow. Okay, here's menu item just imported, and as you can see here, you got the menu item ID. So this menu item reflect which item that was clicked. Okay. Now, how do you know which item was clicked? If you look here, each menu I'm sorry, this is not the right one. Each item here has ID. So ID new game, this is one. There's an ID contact. There's an ID info. Okay, and under info there's Twitter. Okay. So one thing I can tell, you can differentiate between them from the ID itself. So you could say if ID equal R ID dot, let's say Twitter. Okay, so I can say, for example, go to Twitter. So I can go to Twitter. I can just say toss. I can toss. Currently, I can this dot go to Twitter. Okay, and you can say show. Okay, the same for the rest. You can specify, you can start another activity. For example, you could say else if ID equal RD ID equal let me check the about, or the first one was called what here. The about is called new. I don't know why did I call it a new game, but let's say, let's stick with that. New game. And I can start a new activity by saying start activity, new intent, and the first is this, and the second is we can start another activity. Let's say which activity I have. Let's say welcome activity dot class. So here I'm going to start another activity of say new game, for example. Okay. So now if you click, so notice that I just implemented two items, the Twitter and the new game. Okay, you need to do the rest, of course. You need to do the rest. Now let's see how does it look like when it runs. When it runs, okay, it's coming up now. All right, so here's, notice that if I click here, it should go to another activity. I clicked here already. It's taking time, and it went to another activity because I said go to the welcome activity. If I go back and say, let's say if I click, for example, contact, nothing will happen. If I go here and say Twitter, you'll see that go to Twitter, as you can see here. Okay. All right. So this is one thing. How can you populate your menu with in the menu bar, in the application bar at the top? However, also you have the option. Let me show you another option here. Other options include adding back button. So it's very typical to add the back button so that you can go back. Look at this slide. And basically you need to do 2 lines of code. 1 line of code to get support action bar and set display up enable true. This should be in the on create, this line, the red line. And you have to override on support navigate up, so that what you want to do when the back button is clicked. So this is the method that you do. Normally what you want to do is to finish, to kill the activity so that you go to the previous one. And of course you need to return true also here. So you can put this code inside and you see how does it work. There's another interesting menus you can develop, which is pop-up menu. Pop-up menu is a menu not in the application bar. It could be anywhere in your application, and it will pop up right on the view that is set for that. So typically, so let's say here, if you want to, for example, you can use it here, by the way. If you click on the any of these, you want a menu to show up, for example. Okay, so how can you do that? First, again, you need to display or to define the menu in the XML and use pop-up menu for that. So you need to show the menu and you need a handler for that also. Okay, so if you want to show the menu, let me grab this code here where you are defining, as you can see here, you define a pop-up menu. Okay, use inflator to get the XML of the menu. So the XML of the menu, you define it the same way we define the menu. So this must be also a menu, by the way. Okay, and after that you show it, and this method is used. So let's do that here. So let me, for example, let me in the grid view here, let me show, here's customize grid view. Let me here just say show menu. Okay, and in show menu, let me paste it here. So I will, whenever there is, you click on the doctors in the grid view, I'm going to show a menu. And this menu, I will show you in a second. Shift enter, import, pop-up menu, which one I should, jar, Android. Okay. Of course, in terms of menu, I have this menu, which is a simple one, item, browse, room, email, and there's another one, the main menu. I will choose the second one, which is the B menu, which is something I developed. Okay, so B menu, and you show it. Okay, now I did not attach any action here. I just want to show it. Okay, now I will show how. Okay, I have here what do you call it? Okay, show menu. So let me get back to make sure how does it look like. So here's show menu, menu view, and here's the listener. Okay, menu item. Okay. Okay, where is it? Okay. I have to pass, let's say, the view here so that it will work. Okay, let's see how does it look like. I hope it will work. I didn't try to the grid view, I tried to the simple one. Okay, so if I click on one of these, okay, you'll see the menu showing up here. If you click here, the menu is showing, and you can pick one of them, as you can see. Okay, so this is called pop-up menu. where it is attached to a certain view. Okay, of course, if we go back here, you can see that after you inflate the menu, you can add item. You can implement what's so called on item click for the item, and you can add some kind of handler there. What do you want to do there? Do you want to send this doctor an appointment, let's say an email? Do you want to, for example, browse his website? What do you want to do exactly? So you can attach that on menu item click. So here when I say menu set on menu item click, what I mean is this line of code where you override a method called set on menu item click listener, which is a click listener for the menu item. Finally, there's a dialog layout. It can be configured in the same way that we configure things in menus and grid views. Basically, you can have a small activity or dialog where you can have your own layout here, and at the same time you can set things there. So there's the same token we have XML where you define the layout of the dialog, and also there's a class called dialog, and I think we covered that previously in the previous classes early in the section. Okay, so this is for this small lecture, and I would like to thank you all, and see you later.